And there are more questions than answers coming out of this weekend's summit. Now more is being asked on the eve of tomorrow's meeting that Hena and I are talking about between President Trump and Zelenskyy, along with those European allies. With us is Niall Stanage, senior staff writer and White House columnist at our partnersatthehill.com. And he's here in New York. So great to see you, Niall.
Good to see you in person.
You were sitting next to me here while we were listening to that press conference. What did you make of the EU commissioner stressing Ukraine has to be at the table when it comes to negotiations?
So I think the big picture here is that the Europeans are worried about the Ukrainians being boxed in, being put into an untenable situation. So it has always been a European principle as well as a Ukrainian principle that you can't decide things in their absence. You can't just make a declaration that these will be the terms of peace and then strong arm Zelenskyy into it. And I think that's the message we heard reiterated there.
I have to ask you about the land swap. We just heard Ukrainian President Zelenskyy setting a hard line. He doesn't plan on conceding anything to Russia, to Putin. We know he's meeting with Trump at the White House tomorrow. How do you see this presser playing out? I'm sure it will look a lot different than what we saw in February with so many European allies alongside with him.
Yeah, look, the European allies in plain terms are there almost as a protective detail for Zelenskyy. Yeah. The whole purpose of them being there is so that there cannot be a repeat of February where Zelenskyy ends up getting browbeaten. Now, in relation to the land swaps, I think that relates to another point that was mentioned in the presser we just watched, which was the idea of should there be a ceasefire or a comprehensive peace agreement. Zelenskyy doesn't want a comprehensive peace agreement because it gives an advantage to Russia, basically.
I always enjoy reading your articles, and right before the summit, you wrote ahead of the summit that this would be one of Trump's most crucial foreign policy meetings of his second term. Donbas region was discussed. Do you still think that is one of the more important factors as we go into tomorrow's meeting?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there will have to be a resolution to this war at some stage. Sadly for the Ukrainians, it seems inconceivable that that will involve the retention of all of Ukraine. There will need to be some level of swaps. But one thing that came out of Alaska was this continued insistence by President Putin that the Ukrainians should give up territory that Russia does not currently occupy in return for freezing the front lines elsewhere. That's something that the Ukrainians understandably don't want to do.
You also had 5 thoughts on what the world should learn in Alaska. Have those thoughts changed now, the aftermath of what we've
Well, some of them have. I mean, I think that one of those questions was how conciliatory, Trump was going to be to Putin.
Jovial.
Very. Yeah. And there was this, you know, all the imagery coming out of that seemed to, frankly, play into Putin's hands in terms of the red carpet, in terms of riding together in the beast, all of that. But the big question, or an unanswered question, still is this issue of security guarantees. There's a very vexing issue about whether the US would offer support in a peace deal to preserve that peace, to stop any further incursions by Russia. There appear to be behind-the-scenes suggestions that that is the case, but we haven't heard a lot publicly from President Trump on that recently.
I want to talk more about the land swap. Like we said, Zelenskyy has drawn a red line, but you make a really good point. That area is already militarily occupied by Russia. Knowing all that, what do you expect from the meeting tomorrow? What do you hope to hear?
Well, I think that the key question really will be whether President Trump is pressuring Zelenskyy on that point, pressuring Zelenskyy to give up more territory for the carrot being dangled in front of him of a comprehensive peace deal, or whether there is an acceptance of Zelenskyy's point of view, which is that not only does he personally not want to give up territory, but it is actually complicated under the Ukrainian constitution whether any president has the capacity to change the national territory.
During this press conference, again, you were sitting alongside with me a few moments ago, Zelenskyy said he is open to a trilateral meeting. That's what Trump also pushed yesterday. President Trump wants this meeting before the end of the week. What are you hearing from your sources at the Capitol?
So I think a lot depends on how tomorrow goes as to whether that meeting will happen. If it does happen, is it about the actual likelihood of some deal being arrived at, or is this just for the optics? That's honestly the question that's hanging over so much of this, whether it's Alaska, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's this potential 3-person meeting. Well,
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.